And this is the podcast. And today I'm interviewing this amazing streamer, game developer, musician, artist, all around cool person. Yeah, developer of the new hit game Deluge.
Oh
And
yeah, 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 yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. And just all around good friend. Thank you for coming on the show, riggy2k3.
Of course, man. Thanks for
Yo,
having me to do this.
nice, nice. Yeah, I've known you for a little while now. You've been on the podcast before with Codapill, so
Mhm.
we know you already. But you've recently made this game called Deluge, and
Yeah,
it's just this amazing experience. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing it with us. Yeah, it's just we've just seen lots of people play it on Twitch. It's the interesting thing about it is that I
great.
feel it's been pretty Twitch centric, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's you figure that's like where most of my audience comes from now, and like it's just been cool because like when I did a joke game and like immediately like everyone was super supportive to play that, But now it's like now I'm like okay, here's like a really serious game. It's kind of sad. It's really dark. And everybody's been playing it, and it's just been so much fun to just watch the reactions and like clean it up a little bit and do that sort of thing. So it's really
mhm.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just like it's a new thing for you, right? Because I think you'd like consider this
Yeah.
your first serious release per se, like a
Hmm.
completed release. And yeah, it's just an awesome experience. It's also I think it's quite a unique game because it's not necessarily quite conventional in its structure. You'd kind of like explore the town of
Hmm.
Figaro, as a
Hmm.
skeleton, which probably is a good selling point for a lot of people. Not many games you play as a skeleton, and it's your pitch is a skeleton life simulator. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
expand on that.
It's the best way to do it without spoiling too much. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, well, you've seen the screenshots. You know that you play as a skeleton. That's good enough. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah. I suppose you don't want to spoil too much because you've. I suppose the version that I played earlier on, I played it on stream, was like a demo version that didn't necessarily have
Yeah.
a whole bunch of story on it. There were literally points where I entered a room and it said story goes here or
Yeah.
conversation to be added. So it's nice that when I finally played the actual final version of Deluge, it had like a nice coherent story that was
Hmm.
really well told, but also sort of vague. There's a little bit of vagueness and stuff left open to interpretation. How did you
Hmm.
approach that?
To be honest, well, so I've never written like a narrative before ever. Like I've done like short little things for fun. And like I've done like just I don't know, like goofy stuff that isn't really that serious, but I kind of use my like professional brain for it, where it's like I'm always kind of writing copy for businesses and that sort of thing in my day job kind of stuff. So like the way that I would organize writing a blog entry is kind of how I did the story. It was like you did the outline, and then you filled in the blanks, and a lot of it actually ended up just coming later too. And like the story kind of felt a lot more cohesive once I started putting more like lore type stuff in the game and like really pulling it together. Because then I'd go back to a scene and I'd be like, oh well, we can reference this and we can actually pull this together. And um, I don't really know how it came out the way it did, but I'm really glad it did.
Yeah, yeah, that really tracks because well, for those who don't know, Riggy has been streaming a lot of his development on Twitch of this game,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I sort of got to see some of it come to life as it was coming to life, or coming to death rather, because skeletons. But
Right, right.
yeah, it makes sense. So I think in that sense, I kind of saw a little bit of the process, and I feel like you kind of came from the place of ideas sometimes. Like you had like this idea of going around some corridors and being spooked by things, but you weren't exactly sure how it would fit into the overall like narrative per se.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then later on, it kind of came together. Would that be sort of correct in how it came together?
Yeah, I mean, so the origins of the game are from the game jam we did in May. I'm pretty
Mm.
sure it was in May, but we just made 2K3 games, and so I had the idea of I had made this game Easy RPG that you and I had spoken about before that I had been working on, and the whole game was set in a hub world where it was just like one major map where everything is in a building or like in a deeper level or something like that. And so for the game jam, I was just like, I want to play as a skeleton, being a bad guy in a town. And then it's just like, how does the town react? Because I had played Zargoth's Pokemon Nightmare Invasion, and it's pretty much like a Silent Hill ripoff kind of thing or something.
Yeah.
But like the way that the way that he set everything up was super influential with like what I wanted to do. So I started building kind of that idea, and then I had like a really lightly structured organization of events, and that was what I ran with. I didn't have plot. I just had like, okay, I want to fight this thing and do this thing and then be done.
Yeah.
And I didn't finish the game jam game, but I mean, I you could start to finish it, and like um, from there it was just kind of like I've been just adding things in, like details in over the past couple months, and just kind of like fleshing it all out.
Yeah, there's this quote by wait, I'm a bit hot on the mic thing. Sorry. There's this quote by David Lynch I quite like, where it's like there's a puzzle that need to put together over the course of time, and it's like
Hmm.
someone's feeding you pieces of the puzzle underneath the door, so to speak.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you get like this thing, like I want this, I want roaming around a corridor. I want to feel like I'm getting scared around every corner. I want to this kind of hub structure where you got a city and you got like different places you can explore, and then later might
Hmm.
come the little more details as it starts feeding in. I feel like that
Hmm.
kind of resonated with the way that you kind of approached it. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
with that game that you
Um,
said was your influence, was it similar in that there was a town that you could go to different locations and stuff? Or
yeah, yeah. So without spoiling too much, I guess about Nightmare Invasion, because it's Pokemon Nightmare Invasion, but for all intents and purposes and referencing it, I always just get rid of the Pokemon part because it's really not a Pokemon game. It's just kind of they use the graphics from those games,
yeah,
but it gives you a town. The town has a bunch of locked doors and houses and things, and then you're kind of tasked with figuring out how to get in there so you can like get information and figure it out. Um, but the only thing that I think I did differently there was just I put more story points in and that sort of thing first. So like you're really traveling and doing story points more than you're doing like different hotspots for like spooky stuff to happen, I guess. But
yeah,
I could be, I don't know. I guess I kind of do that too, a little bit.
yeah. And there's a sense, I don't know if it is in Nightmare Invasion as well, where you have like different points of interest in your game. Um,
Hmm.
and I feel like maybe as we get further into the discussion, I'll have like a definite point where I say spoiler alert for the game. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, for now, I'll try and keep it vague, and then later on we can talk about true spoiler, because I do want to have a section where I actually talk about like the ending, about
Yeah, yeah.
spoiling everything. So, but as it is, there's like you can explore different locations in any order in some respects, and there's a lot of wondering that happens. Kind of reminded me a little bit
Hmm.
Yume Nikki-ish, not quite as wondery, but like where you're sort of just going, okay, where do I go next? Is it this building,
Yeah.
and there's like multiple spots that you can go.
Hmm.
Did you feel like you were thinking about that as you were developing the game, like the non-linearity of it?
Yeah, actually, so maybe not the level of like Yume Nikki, but
Mm.
I definitely like the idea of like, hey, I can't do this, so I'm gonna go look over here at this, and like trying to make that happen. That was something I never did it before either.
Mm.
Um, and so I really, it's like this game is so many different ideas in that regard that I just like lightly touched. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
so you have non-linearity, but it doesn't like break, like there's still a pretty story driven, narrative throughout it, but it's like how you address the certain points when you start out, stay open so that it just kind of feels like, I wanted in the beginning rather for you to feel like you really have no idea where to go. So then you're just kind of forced with the environment and dealing with it. And then that was where the atmosphere kind of interest came in because I'm like, well, okay, well, I don't want you to be here and be like, this is the worst song ever, or this is
yeah,
the most like uncomfortable sound effects and stuff like that. So like then all the sound and stuff kind of came into play and built the environment a little bit more.
yeah. Because there is a sort of lightness to it, even though there's heaviness. There's some games that lean right into its heaviness and its gore and its disgustingness, but this one doesn't really do that.
Hmm.
If there's deaths, there's blood in the game. There is blood, but it doesn't
Hmm.
really go overly gratuitous with it. And there are
Right.
points of humor and cuteness to it as well that I feel are quite. It kind of tries to toe that line of you know. Because there's like little in jokes and not in jokes. There's like little jokes and humor in there. Would you say that was something that was intentional? That you wanted to kind of keep it light while kind of scaring the keeping the scares
Yeah,
coming.
because that's like me as a person too. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, like I know some people are gonna look at it and they're gonna be like, this is like the atmosphere I'm looking for. But like a lot of people probably would like look at a game for me and be like, I don't know about spooky with this guy because I'm always trying to be goofy and fun.
Mm.
And so, I my dog is here. Um, and so I kind of tried to like blend a little bit of that, and plus like most of my favorite games that are super serious like have those little moments of just like fun. Like Final Fantasy 6 is super depressing and a lot of bad stuff happens, but then like you're all this goofy stuff happens at the very same time, so it like keeps you kind of invested in a bunch of different ways, more so than just being like spooked out of your mind or like nervous or depressing or feeling depressed rather or something.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that you have like a lot of influences when it comes to playing RPG Maker games. I think you
Yeah,
also do a lot of stuff on your Twitch stream. Um, I was talking to Hawk Zombie about this earlier. It's great to find an RPG Maker, developer who also plays other games, and celebrates other games as well. And I think you
right,
do that
right,
quite well. You've played a lot of RPG Maker games, and
right.
I think that also helps bleed into your work, where you're also, while during development, asking for new influences and stuff. Like you're like,
Yeah.
what RPG Maker games do atmosphere really well and things like that. I just want to know,
Right.
what were your like. You had a list. What were your like main influences for this game when it came to RPG Maker and non RPG
Um,
Maker games?
so non-RPG Maker games, it's just like I love the simplicity of, I mean, Final Fantasy 6, I guess, is complex, but really, it's just like when you like look at like an RPG Maker game, they like most games just want to copy uh, um, that like battle system. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Just like that vibe that Final Fantasy 6 kind of puts out there. Um, and
Mm,
so that with that battle system in mind, I was like, okay, well, like what else can you bounce around it? And so that's like with the spooky games, I really don't I haven't played much of Silent Hill at all, but I just love that it felt really like open and dark and like mysterious and everything in the beginning when I played it. And so that was like kind of a good starting point for me. But RPG Maker games like Beautiful Escape Dungeoneer by Colunio
yeah.
is like really, really good at atmosphere. Like a Nightmare Invasion, like I said, was really good. I
Mm.
just recently played a game called Enroll, which is like a Japanese one, RPG Maker 2003 game that was translated. Look, I got a toy now. That was translated by VG Person.
Right.
Um, so those were pretty big influences. What else? Um, oh, and my absolute all-time favorite RPG Maker horror game is The Longing Ribbon, which is just like really fantastic use of environment,
Yeah.
really fantastic use of the RTP that comes with it. It was super like when I played that game, I got like genuinely scared
Mm.
for in certain moments, and I was like, this is so cool that they're doing this, with this like with this engine I've spent so long in, and it took me so long to actually find that game. So I hold that one in really high regard.
Yeah.
But I tried to stick with the influences and like what I wanted to like pull from. I tried to keep it 2000 or 2003, so then I could just like directly reference them when I needed to. So not
Yeah.
only is like not only are like some of the vibes and stuff like reminiscent of these games, but also like even the sound effects and certain things are like like edited versions of like sound effects from these old freeware games and stuff that I found too. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of sound, there's a massive sort of uh, massive sort of emphasis on sound in this game, I think, which comes partially from your like producer background, but also
yeah,
just,
yeah,
yeah, sound design was pretty important to you, right? Finding
yeah,
the soundtrack as well. There's tracks from different people who you specifically, I don't know if it commissioned or asked to produce tracks for this game or asked for their tracks. How would you say your approach to like music and sound effects was for this game?
yeah. So all of the really creepy uh uh all of the really creepy like sorry, my dog is just driving me crazy. My all of the creepy like avant-garde sounding stuff came from my friend Cam, otherwise known as Those Damn Bloodsuckers. And so I had an idea for a game back in 2018 that I was trying to put together, that I'd started doing graphics for, and I put like the first level or so together. And when I was trying to think of atmosphere and music, I knew he did like that kind of stuff, so I reached out and he sent me a bunch of songs to use, and then I just could download whatever from his library.
Mm,
And so then when I started doing a horror game again, I brought those tracks back out and was just like, okay, well, like how can we use these? And once I started putting all the really spooky stuff in, I was like, okay, well, maybe to counterbalance it, we can start putting in some like, more like atmospheric or like pretty music. And I'd remembered, I think it was Shadow Seeker actually. I think it was Shadow Seeker, Koopa Kush's game,
right.
and it was like it did the Resident Evil thing where it had like the save rooms with the really pretty music, and it just like vibes, and you just like feel really comfortable in this like space in this absolutely terrifying, haunted house
Yeah.
spot. And like I was like, that's perfect. I want to do something like that. So then I put tracks together like that, and
Right.
the soundtrack for the game just kind of came together super super easy.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, because
So
it has some like swirling, dystopian kind of like vibes to it. There's some in the initial tracks. I don't know if it's in the final game, but there's some like screeching and like some
yeah,
samples of Nosferatu, and like you also pitch down one of the early synthetic pieces, by one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
founders of synthetic music, I think it was. So it was
yeah.
like this collage of influences.
Yeah, I was browsing around for samples for stuff to make, and then I found that track. It's by Daphne Oram,
Yeah,
and it's called Pulse Persephone. And like I just threw it in the engine, and then I just pitched it down, and it was just like this, stretched it out a little bit,
yeah.
and was like, this is perfect. It just encompasses the environment that it's used in. It encompasses it, I think, really well, and like fit the. And I was gonna change it, and then I kind of looked up like legally where I'd stand with that. And so far, I think we're okay. I think we're all
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But
we're good. And unless you get like a DMCA from Daphne Oram and their associates, but hey, I don't know if they
yeah,
they'd bother with it. But
I
um,
think she passed. She did pass away a long time ago. Rest in peace. So
all right,
she
yeah,
was very cool at what she did, but I don't think that she's really chasing after me for this.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Um, and when it came to like, it's such an atmospheric game. I think the wondering and the music and the vibes and using the RPG Maker 2003 RTP as well.
Hmm.
There's to my knowledge, there's very little that is added to it. Like it's
Yeah.
mostly just the straight RTP, right? But there's some custom graphics that are used, but it's distinctly in that style, which I think is quite nice.
Hmm.
I feel there was a point in time, maybe after the demo release, where am I correct in saying that you had a little bit of maybe a creative standstill when it came to the game? You're wondering it was having a bit of difficulty with it. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah. It's funny because if you like, even when I look back actually on the files and the stuff that I've made, there was just like months where I'd stop because I would just kind of like lose it, or I'd be stuck on something that I've never done before.
Yeah,
Like writing the narrative, like I said before, was like super crazy to me. I've never really put something like that together, so I had no idea how to go about it. So like just looking at like the world that I built and the characters that I started placing, and the little locations of bookshelves that I'm like, oh, this is a good spot to like hide some kind of information. I'm like, I don't even know what to put there.
yeah,
And so that took me a really long time. And then as it got closer, like the release date I set for myself got closer, I was like, okay, well, let's just run with the ideas we have, and then just keep tightening them up every time we go through the game. It's like if an idea doesn't hit like you want it to hit, then just like move on to something else. And eventually I got something kind of nice out of it. But that block was hard, man. I have so much respect for people that are writers,
yeah,
like
yeah.
because I overthink everything so quickly.
Mm.
So
How did you get through that creative block?
um well, I guess I played some things that were pretty influential too, but like um to be honest with you, I just kind of it came and went, really. It was
Yeah,
like as soon as I felt like something, I ran with it. And then really it's like you do something really, like I would make one significant change to the game after not touching it for like a month,
Mm.
and then would just be like on a high from that, and would be like, okay, well I'm gonna just go in and then add three more things and then do this and this. And then those like last 2 or 3 weeks were just grinding. It was just like, okay, we have a deadline, let's just reach this deadline, that's all that matters, get the game done and then fix
Yeah,
the massive bugs if you find them, whatever.
I think.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like you said. I think it's important, perhaps for some personalities. I think I'm similar, where you just have to you have to ride that creative energy when you get it, and it's like for
Mm-hmm.
me, it comes in waves. So sometimes you have to crunch through it, but it's sometimes very difficult to do that. But when you get that creative, you sometimes have to just like embrace that there's nothing happening right now, and then when it actually comes to you, you can ride that wave again. I guess is what I got from
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there was something I wanted to say about that as well. Oh yeah, you had this sort of strict deadline of Halloween because it was a
Yeah.
skeleton game. It was creepy. It was
Yes.
horror, and you wanted
Yeah.
to get it out by October 31st. Would I be right in saying that if that deadline wasn't there, you probably wouldn't have released it as soon as you have? Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Who even knows if I would have released it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It that's always been my case. I'm just like, you know how it is. It's like
Yeah.
you like imagine your idea, and then you actually start putting your idea together, and you're like, oh, this is an idea that is really something, and it can continue to be something. And then you're like, okay, here's this overwhelming task
Yeah.
of finishing that, and like making sure that you fulfill everything that you want to fulfill, and so when I started thinking like that, it was like, okay, I can't do that. I
Yeah.
can't like I can't get caught up, or I'll never finish it, and it'll sit in all my other unfinished project, with all my other unfinished projects, and I'll just like let it be.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I kind of wanted to stick to it, and then I started promoting it and started just like building the branding for it and stuff. It was like, okay, it's gonna happen. So
Yeah. Exactly. It's set in
lucked
stone.
out,
I
made it happen.
Yeah. I also feel like when I played that early demo that you shipped over. Sorry.
Hmm.
When I played that early demo that you shipped over to RPG Maker Cola so that I could stream it, um,
Hmm.
like I said earlier, it was in its sort of less formed state, and it seemed like there was a lot to fill in, but then later on, as you're filling in, I think for me it felt like it was probably the lore and the story behind it that made it come to life.
Hmm.
Because without that, it did feel like a, a structure or a skeleton for a game. I don't want to use that pun, but yeah, it did feel like a skeleton for a game, but really filling it with that. Even those little lore bits and the story behind it, I think that was the thing that made it feel like like a game to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Because up till that point, I was like, this is really nice. I can see this is really unique and interesting. But I
yeah,
felt like you just need to put those little lore pieces in there, and then it really I felt that emotional connection, and in the end, that's what it was about. So that's how
yeah,
I felt about
yeah.
it
And then
anyway.
having that final round of testing and then seeing people have responses to certain scenes was like that's when it's like, okay,
Mm,
like we it's here. And then I just fine-tuned a little bit more, and um was happy with it. So
yeah,
it dude, it's so crazy to finally have something like that put together. And then like I keep waking up now and I'm just like, okay, well, I should do some more, I should make some more changes, or I should fix things. And like I guess I can, and I probably will, but like realistically, I guess I don't really have to either.
mm,
And that's probably the most uh that's like the feeling I'm most insecure about, because I'm just like, is it done or is it
yeah,
more? And like I'm starting to demo it with people, and I'm getting some like really broad reactions now, and I'm like, oh, should I keep working on it, should I
yeah.
keep making more? So
That's the funny thing
uh,
is I talk with a lot of developers, and one of the things that is discussed quite often is the idea of the post-release blues, or
yeah.
the sort of thing like, it's done, now what? I think you've had the benefit, I think, of seeing a lot of people play your game, whereas a lot of people
Hmm.
release games and some people release games and they never see someone play their game. It's
Yeah.
and that would, for me, would be the most maddening thing, to not
Yeah.
know whether someone likes what you've made. I can see why some developers get really frustrated and they get bitter and jaded and then leave the game development scene if they feel their game is not being properly seen. I
Yeah.
think you had the privilege of seeing, like, because you coordinated the Twitch centric nature of it. to have a lot of people play your game live and see that.
Right.
How's that been for you, just following those streams?
Oh, dude. Well, so the first, like initially, like right at first we had the game came out, and then I'm just, other than doing the Twitch plays thing that we were doing on my stream, like we I was just watching streams. Even when the Twitch plays was happening, I was watching I Can Fix That 99 play the game, and I'm just like watching him, and then he's finding bugs and stuff right away. So I'm like, okay, like immediately, like there's things to address and things that I didn't even think about. And so I've been watching these, like it's fun that all my friends are doing the playthroughs, but like I've been watching them like a hawk, because it's like whenever something goes wrong, I just jump back in and I fix it. And thankfully I haven't done too many fixes, but like, it's kind of it's really nerve-wracking, and I got excited because the first couple people played it, but then there's like other options and other ways to play and things that, like event movement and activity that I didn't even think about,
Yeah,
so
that's always the case with player testing, is that players play it in a way you never would have anticipated, and they do things that
hmm
you never would have thought, and they get stuck on things that you never thought they would get stuck on. There are a
yeah,
couple of
yeah.
points during Deluge, and I think I'm going to get into maybe not full, no, we won't get into full spoiler territory. I don't think I need to say that, but there's several
hmm
points where it's quite difficult to know how to, if you don't know exactly what, say, a text tooltip in the game is talking about, it's a puzzle area, then you might not be able to continue in the game because there's a there's a certain panel that you have to read, if you
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean, that has a
yeah.
clue to how to progress in the game. But I've seen some people stream it and they didn't quite know how to progress in Deluge. Um,
hmm
so that was. How do you feel about that? That there were some points where you thought, "Oh, this will be obvious in the game," but then
hmm
when you see it, it was like, "Oh, that's not as obvious as I thought." Even it's not a full spoiler, but the ending, there were certain people who didn't know how to
mm
how to trigger the ending.
yeah, yeah. Well, so I mean, those kinds of things I don't mind, just because it's
Mm,
not like you have to cross like a million miles to get to like certain
mm,
things. It's just like you just have to really look around and touch things. And
yeah,
I think that there's totally like definitely more ways to like, push the player forward, which these are changes actually that I've recently made to there's actually little reminders that I've added since the first build came out, where it's just kind of like, okay, well, we'll just like push them just like one little line or something and let it go like that. And
yeah,
those kinds of things are cool. But honestly, it's like, dude, if you are invested in the game, it's not that long. You can definitely go find the thing. And like sometimes the frustration's good, because then you get that like sigh of relief when you really find it. And so those are kind of more what I'm looking for, I guess, in those moments. Because I think you can agree with me probably. There's like two specific parts where you can be very clueless if you're just kind of wandering,
yeah.
or like for these guys, they're Twitch streaming, so they're
Mm.
paying attention to their chat and everything else too. So they're not really like thinking critically like that.
Yeah,
At least that's my thought. But
I
but
agree. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I think also like there's certain points where you will there's certain points you have to say there's a certain point where the annoyance can bring a intended bigger sense of euphoria once you finish it. There's like a sense of a puzzle. There's supposed to be a little bit of an annoyance there with the puzzle, uh, but like perhaps not too much of a setback if you fail. And one of the things
hmm
I suppose you had to think about in the game is save points.
hmm
How often
Yep.
should you save? I think there's been some instances where people haven't saved and then they go back quite a
Yep.
while.
Yep.
So you had to
Yeah.
sometimes even there's one point at one point you have to explicitly say you sort of like, hey, maybe I should save here because there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
difficult. But you didn't want, to my knowledge, you didn't want to be too like specific about telling people to save all the time because you didn't want to break that fourth wall and you didn't want to tell people what to do. I guess would you
Yeah.
say that was true?
Yeah. But I mean, like we ended up just doing that. Then later on, it's like there's some slight fourth wall breaking stuff that just happens just because you want to like, um just because you want to like not throw somebody off, especially because like you said, it's like some people make a lot of progress and they don't even think about it.
Yeah,
um but I tried to be a little bit more gratuitous with those, and like you actually gave me a bunch of ideas for those as well, which I think reminds players a little bit more. So
Yeah, I think
Worked out.
when I play games, sometimes on stream, I get into this mode where I start giving tips like 24/7, and I I think during that stream with Ricky and Coda, I started to get into that mode where I was giving so many like tips, and I at the end of it I felt, oh, maybe I'd done too much, but by the end of it I feel like this game has done well, and yeah, I think it's good to have feedback, but I suppose you had to like pause between the stuff you wanted to keep and the stuff you're like, well, that's just someone's experience, right?
Right.
You got some feedback also from Harmless Games about the story. Is that
Yeah,
true?
yeah.
Yeah.
Harmy helped me write the story out actually in this really cool way that I'd never considered, where it was like you have like, you have your rising. It's kind of like it's like a what are they? I don't know the archetypes of like writing theory or anything, but like I know it's like you have your what is it? Your exposition and then your climax and then your. And like so I kind of put things together more like that, and like the best way that Harmy described it when they told me was like um it's like you can have this like this arch
Mm,
in a plot point, but then that like your plot points can have that same arch, and it just goes deeper or more like more micro or macro with it. And
yeah.
so when I started to look at it that way, I was just like, okay, well, this is really helping me shape the narrative where it's going to feel cohesive to somebody that, or I guess, that kind of presentation. And I'd never thought of it that way because, like I said, I never wrote a narrative or never put a story together this way. So it like really made a huge difference, and it really helped me like flesh out each part of the game, because there are 5 parts, I guess, in the game,
Yeah.
but like there's probably, I would say, like 3 really major parts, and it's like the intro, and then the like doing the stuff that you're supposed to do in the game, and then finishing the game,
Yeah.
after the climax, the resolution kind of stuff. So
Yeah, true, true. And I think one of the one of the best parts of it, I think, is that it does that typical sort of aspect where you're this skeleton and you're roaming around this town and you've been tasked to eliminate the inhabitants of this town. But then at the same time, by learning about the lore, by reading things, you're
hmm
uncovering an undercover story about different characters that existed in a previous time parallel to the story that you're experiencing, and at some point they kind of converge. That's minor spoilers, but I think that's kind of a usual thing in games. I won't go beyond that, but it's
hmm
sort of like telling the story of this town. So I felt like that was a really effective way of telling the story, is that you actually got
Thank
to
you.
connect the past and the present like that. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
exploring the past. That was a really nice touch, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, that was also really fun to write because I didn't have to map it or script it, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was just books. Just books. Just read this. So,
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to deliver lore, I think, in RPG Maker games. It's just a classic sort of. It's always worked, like, and even just any game in general with audio diaries and
yeah.
so on.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we'll kind of interrupt here for the community Q&A, and then I'll finish off, I think, with some stuff about Twitch, because I'm interested in. There was this. I'll tease the audio listeners for later. It's the stuff about the Twitch Plays Deluge, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
unique and cool, and I love it. And there's some really fantastic figures behind that, and the scripting and the
Yeah.
and so on. But we'll go on to that a little bit later after the Q&A. First question by Zexu or Dragonheart Man. I'm
Mhm.
so glad this is finally
Legend.
happening. Yeah, Legend, the creator of Starless Umbra, was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Heroes of Umbra too. That
Heroes of
was
Umbra, fantastic. Yeah. Zexu says, I'm so glad this is finally happening. What's been keeping you motivated to make it to the finish line, if this is the finish line? Well, it is. Or maybe. What's next for you? And separately, in what areas of game development do you wish to improve?
okay. So, whoa, that's a lot. Okay,
Yeah.
so the first part is what was it? What keeps you motivated, or what kept me motivated? Right?
uh, I think the first part is let me see again. The first part is
Yeah.
wow. My ADHD. I just forgot exactly what I said. I'm
Dude,
so.
me too. Me too.
What's been keeping you motivated? What kept you motivated to make it to the finish line, if this is the finish
hmm
line? And then what's
Okay.
next for you? Oh wait, sorry. We'll start with that one.
Okay.
Yeah. What kept you
Okay.
motivated?
So
Mm.
what kept me motivated was probably being vocal about it. That's been working for me with a lot of things. And
Yep.
like I loved that's one of the reasons why I really love Twitch is that I am constantly telling all my pals how things are going. So it's like really nice to like be accountable for things and like even like little things in my life like when you start getting that like communal support or that like friendship building with these people online and whatever and like you have constant access to your homies at all times like things that you're trying to do are constantly the things that they're asking about. So you're constantly talking about it. So you're constantly thinking about it. And then I had that going for a really long time. And like I always foundationally was an RPG maker developer on streaming. So like that was kind of always where I wanted to be. And so like the whole goal was to like just complete a project. I was like, it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be anything. And then we did the game jam, where it was like, okay, I'm just going to force myself to put something out. And it turned into this. So I think having the accountability and then having the deadline was great. That
Yeah.
was like super important to me. And so I didn't care if everything was perfect as long as the game was playable from start to finish and did what I needed it to do. And you could download it on October 31st. Um, and then, then we did all the fun stuff with it too. So,
Nice. Yeah, that was awesome. Um, Zexu, I
and
think, asked what's next for you, but I think I'll ask that at the end. I'll just give a little bit of a
yeah,
final, but then
well,
and also separately, what areas of game development do you wish to improve? There you go.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm learning right now. I'm learning a lot of the back end stuff, like getting builds up and like learning how all that stuff works and swapping out builds now and that sort of thing. And so, literally, right before we did the podcast, I was setting up the Steam stuff and I'd never done
Yes.
that before.
Let's
And
go.
oh my gosh, dude, it's so confusing. We got it. It works now. I
Oh,
just shared a
nice.
video on my Discord channel that um I can personally open up my test build there. So it
Excellent.
works. It's just a matter of Steam approving it and then probably a fresh build up when they allow it. And so the tentative date for that for Steam is November 22nd.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
because it needs like 2 weeks or something to get through. But that's like something I'm learning now. And then the next thing I want to learn is probably a more complicated game engine.
Yeah.
This is really cool because this has been like something that I've always wanted to do is make a game in RPG Maker 2003 that like was put out and released and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now I have this really good like I still want to use it for fun and whatever, but now I have this desire to like start something new because I feel like I've completed a goal that I've always had. So I want to
Yeah.
learn something new and probably just make Deluge in 3D. Just do
Yeah.
it in 3D. Just do it all over again.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's a good idea.
You know?
And we were talking about like Steam and stuff, and there was a lot of people who help you, but there was a few particular
Yeah.
uh, or even a couple scripters, coders who helped you do some of the really fun technical stuff of Deluge. For
Yes.
example, building an installer for your game, and
Yeah.
Twitch plays Deluge. I think it's Mandayan and also Gimmer. Just those two
Yeah.
come to
So
mind.
I have three. Well, now I have four because Keaton from Vagabond Dog just helped me with the Steam stuff.
Oh,
So he
nice,
like helped me
nice.
figure that all out.
Yeah.
But so shouts out to him. But yeah,
Mm.
shouts out to Manda Jan,
Yeah.
uh, one of my best homies. Literally, like, I told him that. So where do I even start? So I told him I was like, dude, I love Twitch plays. I want to figure out how to do that. And he's like, okay, cool. So like I'd seen, you'd watch Twitch plays Pokemon where it's like a whole chat room of thousands of people are trying to argue or trying to fight to like make the right button presses to play Pokemon. And I was like, you could do that with an RPG Maker game because it's just arrow keys and two buttons. It would work super well.
Mm.
And so I started looking up tools, and the tools were really tough. Like it's like for me, not having any, like I don't understand how GitHub works. I don't understand like what I'm
Yeah.
doing with any of this stuff quite yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, there's no way I can do this. So I'm reaching out to Jan, who is a programmer by trade. He teaches programming, and he was just like, let me look into it. And he had participated in the game jam before, the RPG Maker 2003 game jam, so he had an understanding of like the engine and like how it worked. And because of the game jam, he started working with Cherry, who was responsible for like the English version of 2K3 and a bunch of like the patch stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. And those guys started working together. So when it all happened, or when it was all like when I was preparing to release the game, and I brought this up to Jan, he started just looking into it. And the week before, like we were supposed to launch, he like built Twitch plays, like which works specifically at the that point it worked specifically for Deluge,
Yeah.
where he could open the program up, he could open the game up, and then we were just hanging out in a voice chat, like playing with his Twitch chat and just pretending to play. We're not pretending, but playing the game.
Yeah.
And so we had that all built, and that was working. And the only issue we had was that people, if somebody was playing, you could press X, or in the Twitch chat you could type, and if this had to be in succession, X, down, 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 Z, Z, down, down, Z, right? And that would
Yeah.
turn the game off. That would end the game, because it would go in the menu and it would go to the end game and it would say yes to the end game, and then it would quit the game.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we were like, how do you deal with that? So I had originally reached out to Cherry about it, but or no, no, no. You know what? You know what? Actually, this might have been after. So I have this patch installed in my RPG Maker 2003 that's a legal patch called the Maniacs patch that this
Yeah.
dude Bingshan 1024 created, and it basically just adds a bunch of extra functionality to RPG Maker 2003. And so I reached out to him and was just like, hey, do you think you can, like, do you know how to do this? Like, can we take the end game out? Can we just not use it? Because I guess when he had did the patch, he also kind of rewrote a lot of the RPG Maker 2003 script.
Yeah.
So he moved a bunch of stuff around, and um, he ended up coming through and providing that patch for us. So that meant that not only could we do the Twitch plays, but nobody could ruin it for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So nobody could try and just like end the game, and then I just have to keep reopening it. So we're gonna try and run it again, I think, really soon, and try and do a really like a full run and see if we can actually get through it. But it was such a cool thing, and I don't think I've ever seen that with RPG Maker 2000 or 2003, or really a lot of RPG Maker games. But now, thanks to Jan, we have this tool that like anybody can use,
Yeah.
and we're gonna
Yeah.
and he has plans to release it. And right off the bat, the functionality can play just about any of those classic RPG Maker games, but also it has potential to work for anything. And I think what'll be nice is to have a Twitch Plays tool that anybody can use.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because I think Mandian it says it works for all games that are playable with just keyboard inputs. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and if Mandian, if we could somehow make that available to the RPG Maker community, I think that would be swell because RPG Maker games in particular can
Mm-hmm.
deal with like input that is untimed or just like untimely in general. You can't, for example, play an FPS Twitch plays. It'd be
Right. Yeah.
quite difficult to say aim left, aim right sort of thing. But with
Right.
a grid-based system and sort of grid-based movement, it's much easier to have this Twitch plays thing going on. So I think for the RPG Maker community in general, they could embrace that. In fact, I think they could just embrace streaming better in general.
Right. Sure.
uh, they do well to do that, I think, to encourage streamers, to encourage streaming of RPG Maker games and all that, because
Yeah.
they are quite streamable. They're story based, and they're quite engaging. But hey, we'll see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that RPG Maker could developers could. The developers of RPG Maker could engage with, but they choose not to.
Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, would be cool is like would be the same situation that I got to put together, where it's like somebody
Yeah,
could put their game out, and maybe they don't have eyes, but maybe they have, places to post about it, and just be like, hey, why don't you just play the game right now? Like, why don't you just open it up, and then
yeah,
everybody can start playing together? It's just like a cool, unique way, I think, to play. And like, I mean, I could play, we could put it up and we could play Legion Saga 2. You know what I mean? Like, we could
yeah,
play like an old RPG Maker game and like probably play through the whole thing. And just the potential to do that kind of stuff is like one stepping stone that like Jan is surprisingly just fell in love with RPG Maker 2003, and the community has been really receptive to him. And I think that like as we continue working on stuff and playing with things, I think like if we can provide more functionality for that engine, that would be so cool. And the quality of life would be improved greatly. So
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. We've got some questions from the community. For those who are
hmm
listening via audio, we are also streaming this on Twitch. I'm trying to stream most of these podcast interviews on Twitch now, so I'm very thankful for that. I'd just like to say thank you, Kai, for the raid. Thank you, I think it was Alan
oh,
P, for
hi.
continuing the sub. Now we can sort of engage in chat now because we've sort of been in podcast mode, but yeah, thanks everyone for joining on a Twitch stream. I really appreciate it. There's
Mhm.
Codapill who asks, at what point during Deluge's development did you realize, okay, I'm going to go all the way with this and actually finish? Can you pinpoint that moment?
uh I don't know. um I guess it probably wasn't until it got close to the release date and I started looking at it um like everything seemed like within my grasp,
Mm,
which I don't think I've ever felt with a game before, but I think I had scoped it well enough for myself that I was able to do that. And
yeah,
like I've never felt that way really. Like whenever I do a project, it's always something massive and then it's just like it comes to the tail, like a lot of the albums and stuff that I'll put together are just like here's 2 years of songs that I've just been melding over that I thought were a cohesive piece, but now I have one new song, so we're gonna go back and we're just gonna put it all together and put it out. But
yeah,
like with this game, you can't really do it the same way. So I just kind of kept moving with it. But then once it got to October, and I was like, oh, I can finish this. Like I can do this
yeah.
if I focus and I have the time, and I had the time and I had the focus when I needed it. So like it that was kind of when I knew when it was really coming out, and I didn't change the deadline or back down because I think if I would have did that, it might not have come out. So
Yeah, true. And then there's also Giznads who asks, guys, take off your shirts and have an on-screen battle live. I'm not too
okay.
sure. And oh, no,
Oh, okay. Never
uh,
mind. All right. All right.
I was
Next
going
time.
to, but
Next
no,
time.
no, no. Anyway, so a question for Riggy. I think we might have answered this, but let me see.
Mm-hmm.
If Oh yeah, if you could have picked a different engine to build Delusion from scratch, do you have any in mind? That was from the True Salt King. I think we answered that, right? Um, you see, yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I would either have done it in like a really cool, like a new engine, or I
yeah.
would have liked to have done it, in at least the latest version of RPG Maker. But the charm just doesn't compare. I don't think, for me personally. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a
I'd have to make it look like the old one. I'd probably just take the RTP from the old one and just put it into the new one.
even the way the characters move, the way the message boxes appear, and the text and everything is different when it comes to 2K3 and MZ. So to make it look exactly
hmm
the same would require actually a lot of overriding of the basic functions
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
MZ. Because even if you imported exactly the same assets in the window skins, it would still be kind of smooth to the pixel, and but then yeah, it would look a bit weirder and even
Be really
feeling
interesting.
different. I think it'll feel a bit different because even when I move around in an RPG Maker MZ or MV game,
hmm
I think there's actually something really satisfying about moving around in 2003. It's
Yeah.
maybe the
Yeah.
lack of lag or just like just very. It's probably the most responsive when it comes to movement out of the RPG Maker engines for some reason. Not too
Yeah.
sure why, but when I move around, it feels the best out of all of the
That's
engines.
a really interesting observation, but I think you're right.
Mm.
And I think sometimes I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that the resolution is literally 320 by 240 pixels. It's like
Yeah,
smaller than like the chat box, that you have like on the screen sometimes. It's like um
yeah,
it's so small, and I think because of that it just does everything it needs to in that tiny little amount of space, and it doesn't need anything more than that. So it just feels like a perfectly boxed, I don't know,
yeah,
something. It
yeah.
just seems to work, because it's so simple.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, people are typing in a fancy modern pisser, which is a deluge meme. We've got some
Yes,
memes
yeah,
from the
yeah,
game, which in,
yeah. Cheers. Toilet any percent run.
because yeah,
How
you can
fast can how fast can you get to the toilet in the first major house? How quickly can you get there? As
yeah.
a joke, when I was building the houses, I put a bathroom, and in the beginning of the game, I was like, I'm just gonna put this toilet in as a joke, and then for the game jam, and I was like, I'm gonna look for like an old school kind of bathroom like sprites or something, like something to use or base off of. And then I just didn't, and I just kept it. And it's like that's one of those funny moments you were talking about in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just something like stupid that's in there, but all the homies love the toilet, so shouts out to the homies in the toilet.
Yeah, it's one of those Duke Nukem style moments where you can flush the toilet, or you can you can
Yeah.
do something in the game because the game is comedic. It's sort
Yeah.
of dark, but it has some comedic moments. You can pet the dog. It's a cute little moment, and it's just those little bits of personality that come through the game that give it its really unique flavor, I think, and
Yeah.
that makes me feel when I play Deluge, I don't think I have played a game with quite the same tone as this game, RPG
Hmm.
Maker or no. So I think that's a really it's a unique thing to cherish because it makes the game very memorable. That's what I'd say about
Hmm.
it. When I think of a lot of games, I can think of Deluge and I can instantly remember the feeling of playing the game. And I think that's
Hmm.
what makes me appreciative of the game's existence in amongst, the RPG Maker, game catalog is that when a unique game comes along and tries stuff that's different. I feel like this game has done that. I don't know if you set
Nice.
out to do that, but it definitely feels unique. Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate that a lot just because that was kind of a goal,
Mm.
but like also it was kind of like the most fun part was putting my voice in the game as well. Like I like if you know me, I like the fact that if you know me, you kind of can find those things and you find you find that that's my humor or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that kind
Yeah.
of stuff is really cool. It really feels really personal.
Yeah, some of my favorite games are you can hear the voice of the author, or films, or any piece of art. I feel I I feel best when I can understand some of the viewpoints that are going on in the game. Some games I feel can be quite sterile
Hmm.
in the way that they approach things, where I don't feel a sense of personality there. But when I play your game, I feel that personality come through. It's part of the reason I think why Undertale works as well, because you can see Toby Fox
Sure.
all over that work, like
Hmm.
his humor, the way he approaches life, the different ways he appreciates people, and the choices we
Right.
make. They all come through in that game so strongly, and I feel
Right.
Deluge has that similar sort of showing of yourself coming through, and I can only imagine that would be you'll craft that skill in future games.
Hmm. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
If there just has to be future games. That's like the one thing I think that I'm nervous about now is like, okay, well, do I make another game?
yeah,
Like, obviously not now, but um, I had thought about that too because like I'm like a hobby game developer. You know what I mean? Like I like to do game jam games and I like to just like play with the programs and stuff. But having a game out now, it's like, well, okay, what do I keep making games or like do I do I put together another one of these projects? And obviously, if I did, I definitely would be a little bit looser, at least to start, I guess, because this game was like the first week it was in development, like most of what came together stayed. Like those encounters and a lot of the bosses that you find and those sorts of things are literally straight out of the beginning of or straight out of the game jam version. Which I'm really excited actually to play that again. I should really play that and just see what it looks like
yeah.
because I haven't even thought about the original version since then. But
That'd be nice to stream. I would watch. I would want to watch that. Please do.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Mara has a question, part of which was answered earlier, but I'll take their specific spin on it because we talked about the sound
Hmm.
design and soundtrack of the game earlier. But their question
Hmm.
is, how difficult was it to create the soundscape? Was it
Mm.
very? Did you find? And I might even think of particular like volumes and mixing and
Yeah.
sort of like putting music at the right time in the game. How difficult was it?
Um, I don't think it was. So I don't think it was too difficult, audio wise, because it was like the music kind of came together naturally. Little things like the tones, like when you would get an item, and you get a piano tone or you get something, those kinds of things were just like, like collaborating and working with things, and just like eventually, you hear it. The hard part was like the fact that you have rain outside, and then you have uh remnants of the rain outside when you're inside. You hear it through the walls or whatever. And um then you also have like room noise, or you go outside and you have like all these sound effects and things that start happening, like that I had to make sure turned off and on at the right time.
Yeah.
And a lot of my early builds, you would like sometimes you would leave a house, you'd leave a house and like there would still be like the weird sound from the inside the house just playing because I didn't
Yeah.
turn that off. And with 2K3, they don't give you a lot of options. The newer engines give you like four different tracks for audio or something. There's like background music and then the background sound and whatever. And with 2K3, it's like you have sound effects and you
Yeah.
have background music. And so a lot of things like there would be songs where I put the song over the rain sound so that it would like when the scene would switch, the rain would hopefully, and a lot of times this wouldn't work too. The audio would hopefully keep going so it wouldn't sound like the rain just stops and then the rain would come back with the music or something. So
Yeah.
that stuff was really hard for me, and like stuff that I'm still kind of like when I dropped the game, there was a bug that Narcotis found that was like
Mm.
when you would leave a certain door, you would get this old music when you were supposed to get this new music, and like stuff like that is tough just because you have to look for every single specific instance of the music changing. And
Yeah.
but I think at this point now, that doesn't really happen too often. So
Nice.
maybe
Nice.
once. I think I have one for this new build, but it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not game
Awesome.
breaking. Doesn't break the game, so
Yeah. And we talked about like Twitch plays Deluge. That was fantastic. That went really smoothly. And then there was just a
thank
bunch
you.
of people playing it. We're going to
Hmm.
have a sort of Deluge race coming up soon, which is like going to
Yeah.
have a few people playing Deluge at the same time to see who finishes it first. And I think
Yeah.
that'll be fantastic. I don't know how we're going to set it up. It actually seems like a lot of people want to want to join in, try and finish this
Well,
game as quick as possible.
the fun thing is too, it's like I mean, once you played the game once, you should know what to do. So then that's that I'll be excited to see some of that like gameplay happen too, because that's literally how I tested it. It's just like I knew exactly where the points were to change things.
Yeah.
But watching other people like learn that, some friends like it started out kind of as a joke to speed run the game, but now it's like, oh well, actually you could, it's a 3 hour game, but you could probably finish it in half that if you just avoid all the other stuff. And
Yeah.
yesterday, my best bud DZ played, and he's played a bunch of different versions of the builds. Like he's been kind of my number one tester when I really needed to check something out. And homie did his stream yesterday and was like, I'm gonna do a no save run. And I'm like, you have no idea what's changed, you don't know. But it was so, dude, it was so cool. There were so many moments where he was like so close to death, but we're
Yeah.
just like he had just the right amount of things and that sort of thing. And I was like, that makes me feel good because then he finished that run. No, I think he maybe died once in the beginning. But he made it through that whole run and managed to get all the chests. He didn't use a single save. So he was just, I was like, this is my groundwork. This is like what everybody should want to achieve if you want the 100% run, because here it is. And
Yeah.
that made me feel really good because now there's like, okay, that's the achievement, for whenever we figure out how to get Steam achievements in
Yeah, like that's
2K3.
what's really awesome about it. I feel is that you've got a team behind you that can help you do that. Steam
Hmm.
achievements, and you've got you. I think Gimmer helped you with the installer.
Yes, yes. Shouts out to
Yeah,
Gimmer for helping me with the installer, um,
it's
and Jan obviously for all the tools that we've been building because now we. So Benny, how familiar are you with Easy RPG?
somewhat not fully familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not at all. And today we were just like running deluge builds with Easy RPG because it's like, oh, you can play it on the Wii, you could play it on
Wow.
the Vita, and Codapill actually did that. Shout out Codapill. But
Yes.
he would always, I would send him builds of my games and he would always just put it on the Vita and just be playing. He'd like, oh, I'm just playing your game while I sit here, watching a game, watching something or whatever. And like, um, I never even considered that stuff, but we're trying to look into it because if that provides us with like, if that's a whole new framework for a 2K3 game, it's like maybe it gives us a way in to do those Steam achievements or the things that we couldn't do before. But it's cool because every opportunity we have to try something new, like the Twitch plays, or when we did the game jam, Jan did Twitch functionality with a 2K3 game, like that's kind of stuff that we're going to be able to pass on also too, because 2K3 is still around and people are still putting games out. So it's like if we can keep adding these things to it while other people are adding things to it, it's like it's really cool to just be a part of that, not something I would have saw myself in.
Yeah, I'd see that as like fully like innovating on the RPG Maker engine, which
It's
is
crazy.
it's like becoming a part of history. It's kind of funny to think about that. I've always wanted. I've seen a gap, sort of. I think some people consider, the podcast RPG Maker Cola
Yeah.
is quite, it's an interesting. I didn't even see myself becoming a part of RPG Maker history, which is quite funny. And then I
Yeah.
believe doing stuff like this with Twitch Plays Deluge and stuff, that'll be an important part of history as well as people start to build on that. So it feels interesting being at this point in time in an engine that we thought, perhaps might have been dead a little while ago,
Yeah,
still
for
somehow
sure.
making it through. And even in the older versions, RPG Maker 2003, that's 18 years old,
18 years,
still
yeah.
being used for commercial projects, and yeah, loving it.
Yeah. That's the coolest part. That was something I discovered so much later, because I mean, when I was a kid, when my parents split up, my dad moved into this new house, right? That was like the one thing I took with me. I had a CD. It was literally a CD that I'd burned the 2K3 installer on, the Don Miguel, or no, that was the
Mm.
RPG Advocate 2K3, and I brought it to my dad's house, and I just probably destroyed his computer just like installing RPG Maker games, and just like playing stuff. And it was so cool, like years back, to like, this was like probably 2016 or 17, to
Yeah.
just get back into it, because I was like bored one day, and I was like, well, I should just make something for fun, remembering something I had made, and then seeing that the community is still strong, and that all these games came out, and that the Japanese community is crazy,
Yeah,
you
really
know
is.
really just like working around the clock still with the same engine, and so that kind of reignited me with 2K3. And
Mm.
it's cool now to just be like, okay, well, we have these amazing programmers around us. We have all these like intuitive people that are trying to push something forward. And now it's like, it's really cool to just be a part of the community that I grew up around, and be able to talk to people like Colunio, and share my work with them after, like, cause that dude, I mean, I played almost all of that dude's games, even the really crazy ones, I played those,
Yeah.
and like it's cool to just like be a part of all this stuff, and like really continue to do that. And I think as Jan and I keep messing around, I think maybe we can find more stuff to do. And the other thing I like about Deluge is now we have a project just so that we can use as an example piece, or as something to test, or something to break, or
Yeah.
whatever. And that's what we'll probably try and use it for as we go on with these projects. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so
yeah,
much, Ricky, for what you've done for the community as well. You stream RPG Maker games. You
likewise,
you, you bring everyone together.
likewise, you do
Yeah,
the same.
yeah, and in the streaming community as well. Just like I think you're a very unique
Yeah,
streamer and
man.
developer. It's just it's been a privilege to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, and also I'd like to kind of finish off with a sort of for you. How can we, follow you, your future, support you? What are your links? I guess where can we go?
Uh, delugegame.com, which works like half the time,
Yeah,
but that's okay. That's fine. Or you could just look up riggy2k3. I'm Googleable now, so you can just look me up, and there's stuff about Deluge and stuff about Twitch. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's about it for now. Deluge will be available on Steam, hopefully by the end of the month.
yeah,
But you'll be able to look up Deluge on Steam. We're on itch.io, riggy2k3.itch.io/deluge, or you can just type in the riggy2k3.itch.io. Um, and that's about it. I'm on Twitter too, but it's I don't know. If you want game dev stuff, it's 50-50.
yeah. Nice, nice. And also, when it comes to the Deluge race, when the Deluge race comes around, depending on the date, I'm going to be giving
Yes,
away some. I don't know if it'll be out on Steam, but I'm going to be giving away some free keys for Deluge at that point. So
perfect.
be around for that stream. And also, yeah, that's the end of that. Thank you so much for those
Oh, yeah.
audio listeners. They won't see this, but for the visual listeners, I want to point out you've been being watched this entire time. Look at this. Look at this guy in there,
This guy.
right there.
This guy.
No, no, this guy in between the frames. Look at this
Oh,
on
this
the
guy.
overlay. On the overlay. Look at that guy. He's peeking in at you.
What the hell is he doing there? What are you doing
He's
there?
been watching you this whole
There's so
time.
many skeletons around me.
There's a skeleton over there. Look at him.
There's so many. There's one down here. Wait.
He's a cutie. Yeah. That one there. Yes. But he's been watching you this whole time as you were listening to this podcast. You have been spooked.
Ooh. Halloween may be over, but the spooks are not.
They are not. He kind of sus, though. That's true. I can fix that. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning into the RPG Maker Cola podcast. Thank you, Riggy. You've been fantastic. You can join the RPG Maker Cola Discord. We talk about RPGs and stuff and development, and we just support you in that way. Listen to some of the other podcast episodes. We mentioned Cherry. They're on an episode. We mentioned Don Miguel. They're on an episode. We mentioned Codapill. They're on an episode. I need to get episodes with like Mandian and all the rest. That'll be awesome. The episode with Gimma. But anyway, fantastic. As you can hear the music probably rising in the editing room. Not live, but hey, I hope you have a fantastic day. Develop more. See you later. Bye, everybody. Bye. Cool, that's the end of the recording. You can stop your Audacity recording now and just save that and export it to me when you wish. Thanks, Riggy.
Sounds good. Also, I used FL. Right in that moment, I was like, oh, wait, I forgot to reinstall.
Oh, right.
So you have a nice MP3 coming your way.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm stopping the recording on Twitch as well. Thanks, crew. Thank you to chat. Sort of when... I kind of wondered why when like Vagabond Dog did these sort of things that they kind of ignored chat, but like it's kind of, if I'm recording it for an audio medium, I can't always acknowledge chat, sadly, even though you say some funny stuff.
Yeah.
Some great stuff. But yeah, this is the Green Room chat, your behind the scenes Twitch. This doesn't go to the audio listeners. And it's true, Mara, They don't get the benefit of Holly except for the little pitter patter of feet across the... I'm
pretty sure she has to go to the bathroom, and so she's just been like, when I was like in the middle of it, she's just like, she's very polite. She will wait the entire time, but she just goes in, and there's these bells I have attached to each of my doors for going outside, and so I just hear little rings of the bell. Okay.
I should have told you that beforehand, that you could have stopped it and let her out, and then we'll redo it. We'll restart after that. But anyway, thank you, Riggy. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to put on some chill music and we'll raid somebody. Who should we raid?
Thanks, everybody. A fancy modern pisser.
Very fancy. Who should we raid? Is there anyone streaming Deluge or anything right now? Mario's playing Amori.
Oh.
We could raid Mario.
Yeah,
let's raid Mario. Good old friend. Very sweet. We're going to raid Mario Prospero. Very sweet person. We got a fancy modern pisser in the chat by True Salt King. Cheers to that. 07 to you, True Salt King. Thank you, Mandian, as well. I need to get some of these people on podcasts as well. They'll be fantastic little... need to ask interview about how you got Twitch working and all that. But if you know anyone, just point them towards me for an RPG Maker Cola podcast. Oh, actually, I'll link the podcast in chat as well. If you want to listen to the podcast, there's my card thing. All my links are on there, and you can listen to other episodes of this podcast. There's like 50 of them right now, so and they're all like longer than this one. They're like 3 hours, but cool. All right, let's go raid Mario. Let's go.
This will be good.
This will be good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ending stream now.